Hey everybody, this is Bo Sanders, and I was recently asked if belief in the resurrection makes Christians more susceptible to conspiracy theories. And I want to say no, but maybe not for the reason you would think. After all, Jesus' trial was deeply conspiratorial. But that's not where I think this Christian belief in conspiracies comes from. I think it actually resonates more in places like Ephesians 6:12, where Paul says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, and against spiritual wickedness in high places." So when Paul talks about these unseen realms that are beyond our view and that maneuver behind the scenes, that's the seed planted in the back of our mind that there's more going on in the world than you can explain or see all the time. And it's this belief in unseen realms and spiritually dark forces that makes Christians susceptible to conspiracy theories. It's rooted in believing in the pre-modern or the ancient three-tiered universe, this cosmology, because it comes with an embedded metaphysics with heaven above and hell below. This cosmology or metaphysics is an explanation of the universe that's beyond what you can see or touch or explain or even understand. Actually, the most helpful thing I have found in this conversation is helping Protestants to understand some of their differences with their Catholic sisters and brothers. Because Protestants often accuse Catholics of being superstitious. But Catholics aren't superstitious. They just have a different metaphysic. Think about the Reformation controversy over transubstantiation versus real presence that we see in people like Martin Luther, about what was happening with the bread and the wine in communion. And you can begin to understand why Catholic priests who are guilty of sexual abuse can't simply be defrocked. It's because something at the cellular level, something in their ontology, the ontological reality has changed in the sacrament of them becoming priests. They are different, not just in the heavenly realms, but in their being. Even though they still appear to be, right, regular bread, it is not just regular bread. It is substantially changed at the substance level. This is substance metaphysics. Well, Protestants have a very similar divide from modern Enlightenment rationale when it comes to things like unseen realms and angelic and demonic forces and powers. Christians are not merely physicalists who think that everything real can be quantified and measured and sorted out in a laboratory setting. There is more going on in the world for Christian believers than you can possibly understand, measure, or explain. It's this belief that makes them susceptible to conspiracy theories. It's one of the features, or maybe one of the bugs, of our operating system. It's embedded in the DNA of the way that we are taught to think and believe. On a total side note, I don't have time to go into it here, but this also includes our inherent persecution complex, even when we are the majority religion in a dominant cultural expression. So I find this helpful to think about in the normal distribution of a bell curve. Because at one tail end of the bell curve, you're going to get people like me who say, let's just not do conspiracy theories, right? Let's not even go there. It's never resulted in good things. Everything from the pogroms against Jewish folks for blood guilt, never Italians, by the way. That's totally off the subject. But anyway, there are folks like me that say this has never gone well. Let's just not go there in the 21st century. After World War II, the Lutheran support of Hitler, right? Christian on Christian violence in World War II, the nuclear bombs, we have clearly outgrown our pre-modern, antiquated, inherited notions of God from the tradition. And so let's just not go down this road at all. But I'm a minority on that tail end. The large belly of believers in the middle are not entirely closed to conspiracy theories, but they're also not prone to them. They haven't closed the door yet. I mean, you're not paranoid if they're out to get you, right? And let's be honest, you never know. There have been nefarious schemes and not everyone's motives are known, and there are cabals and networks that influence behind the scenes so that we don't all have access to and they aren't reported in the news. So, maybe. And then there are those at the far end, the right end of the tail, who are prone to see shadows around every corner. This is what concerns me. Not those who are gullible to cynical or devious schemes and outright lies sometimes, but the leaders who know that and then peddle such fabrications. I'm concerned about those who are led astray by the Rush Limbaughs and the Jerry Falwells of the world. Which brings us back to the original question of the resurrection of Christ. The suspicion of conspiracy isn't that far from the narrative of Scripture. Look, something rolled away that stone. Somebody moved the body. It's not out of line with the entire show trial or kangaroo court that convicted Jesus in the first place, where you have this late night secret gathering between the religious leaders and the politicians in order to bring these things about. Normally, sworn adversaries conspiring together to kill him. That was a conspiracy. Look, I'm not talking about grand, huge things like the Illuminati controlling the world, or Masons, or Jews in Hollywood, or the CIA writing that famous Scorpion song in order to influence the Eastern Bloc during the Cold War. I'm not talking about cartoonish caricatures, all right? I am talking about the ever-present specter that haunts Christian thought in the real world, that something's off and we don't have all the information, that there are forces at work behind the scenes, either political or economic or supernatural, that pull the strings from the other side of the curtain. So like it or not, this does make us a little susceptible to devious schemes of darkness and those who cynically play out those fears for their own purposes. Now, admittedly, even saying that starts to sound a little conspiratorial on my part. So if you'll just allow me one side note of application, I actually think that this is one of the rare things that conservative and liberal Christians have in common. The only difference is that liberals tend to look at earthly powers like governments and corporations, whereas evangelical and charismatic Christians might look to the heavenlies and supernatural realms. So they look for the conspiracy in different places, but they're agreed that something's amiss. Anyway, I would love your thoughts on this. Let me know your questions, your comments, your concerns, and we will keep the conversation going.